Hare Krishna, Gauranga. Had a little break in between this morning's couple of videos, but I wanted to pretty much go back to back on this particular 30 key verse because essentially speaking the purport follows on from 9.13, Mahatma Nistamam Parta, and I actually wanted to quote this sloka anyway, but wanted to keep it on a separate one because one, it is a standalone 30 key verse, but also because pretty much Prabhupada is just continuing the purports on and it's linked. So let's get into this one. Satatam kirtayanto mam, and hopefully again as per usual we can try to highlight a few points from Prabhupada's purport and maybe open up something from the 30 key verses of the Bhagavad-Gita. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Bhagavad-Gita 9.14. Satatam kirtayanto mam yatantascha dradavrataha namasyantascha mam bhaktya nitya yukta upashate. Always chanting my glories, endeavouring with great determination, bowing down before me, these great souls perpetually worship me with devotion. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Shunyvari Paschachati Satarani Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Janananda Goswami Iti Namani. Purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The Mahatma cannot be manufactured by rubber stamping an ordinary man. His symptoms are described here. A Mahatma is always engaged in chanting the glories of the Supreme Lord Krishna, the personality of Godhead. He has no other business. He is always engaged in the glorification of the Lord. In other words, he is not an impersonalist. When the question of glorification is there, one has to glorify the Supreme Lord, praising His holy name, His eternal form, His transcendental qualities, and His uncommon pastimes. One has to glorify all these things. Therefore, a Mahatma is attached to the Supreme Person of Godhead. So Prabhupada, he kind of worded the jumble around it a few times, just to emphasize each point. Mahatma is that pure devotee who is 100% engaged in the spreading of the Krishna conscious movement. And it says how here? By praising the holy name, i.e. by chanting the holy name, either in personal japa, in Yugadharma Harinam Sankirtan, with other devotees, or in the temples, or in the streets, by relating to Krishna's eternal form, His transcendental qualities, and His uncommon pastimes. So this is describing this in Lila Kata, or Krishna's different qualities, His energies, discussing the tattva of the Lord's appearance and so on and so forth. So he has to glorify all these things. So a Mahatma has to glorify. That's the duty of a Mahatma, is to be the expert, to be the guide, to be the leader, the representative of these this high platform, these high realizations. A Mahatma is that person who is attached to the Supreme Person of Godhead. And we know that we've discussed before about attachment, how you can be attached to many things, and you can have subtle attachments, a layer below the surface, but externally, internally, that Mahatma is attached to Krishna. His internal heart and soul is completely clear and cleansed of all anarthas, of all possibility of distraction. He's not thinking about his own personal gain. He's not thinking about his own benefit, his own happiness. He's purely thinking about the benefit of the other conditioned souls out there, and also Krishna's pleasure in every activity. One who is attached to the impersonal feature of the Supreme Lord. The Brahmajyoti is not described as Mahatma in the Bhagavad-Gita. So that level of Brahman realization, which comes before Paramatma and Bhagavan realization, is not considered that high. And certainly a person on that platform is not a Mahatma, because it's an impersonalist realization, merging with the Brahmajyoti, the energy and great light of the Lord. That is not the Mahatma platform. So nice clear point there. He is described in a different way in the next verse. Prabhupada in the next verse says, Jnana yagena chapyanye. Oh, so the Lord goes on to say, Yajanto mam upashate ekadvena pritakvena bahuda vishvato mukam. Others who engage in sacrifice by the cultivation of knowledge worship the Supreme Lord as the one without a second, as diverse in many and in the universal form. So Prabhupada linked that back in this purport to those who relate to the Lord. They're not Mahatmas, but they do have different levels of relationship to Krishna. And that's like the financially destitute, the distressed, the inquisitive, and those who are engaged in the cultivation of knowledge. So those 4 types of people that we heard about in the Bhagavad-Gita. But even lower than that, even lower than those 4 interactions, there's another 3. He who worships himself as one, he who concocts some form, and he who accepts the universal form, the Vishwarupa of the Supreme Person of Godhead, and worships that. So these are. So there's always layers and layers and dimensions of practice, you know. So even the most lowest person can bring themselves up. So this is good. It gives us hope, you know, that we can always be moving up some ladder of Krishna consciousness. The Mahatma is always engaged in different activities of devotional service as described in the Srimad Bhagavatam, hearing and chanting about Vishnu, not a demigod or a human being. Again, this point. So, like Ananya's chanting, Avajananti Man Muda verse, Manasam Tanam Ashritam, you know, that fools deride me when I descend in the human form. They think that Krishna is a human, you know, they're thinking that Krishna's come here as he's just a man that's came here, has some power and is gone again, you know. So not a demigod or a human being. So this hearing, that is, then Prabhupada then says, that is devotion. So Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu and Smaranam, remembering him. Such a Mahatma has firm determination to achieve at the ultimate end the association of the Supreme Lord in any one of the 5 transcendental rasas. To achieve that success, he engages all activities, mental, bodily and vocal, everything in the service of the Supreme Lord, Sri Krishna. That is called Krishna consciousness. So we heard that those rasas are like Madhurya, Vatsalya, Shanta, Dasya, Sakya ras, you know. So the servitude mentality, friendship mentality, you know, parental, conjugal, like that, you know. So these are different moods or mellows of devotional service that the Lord can be worshipped in. In devotional service there are certain activities which are called determined, such as fasting on certain days, like the 11th day of the moon, Ekadashi, and on the appearance day of the Lord. All these rules and regulations are offered by the great Acharyas for those who are actually interested in getting admission into the association of the Supreme Person of Godhead in the transcendental world. The Mahatmas, the great souls, strictly observe all these rules and regulations, and therefore they are sure to achieve the desired result. So by doing these things, like fasting, like reading and chanting extra on festival days, like, you know, following in the footsteps of these pure devotees, we're guaranteed, just as they before us have been guaranteed, to achieve Krishna. They are achieving Krishna. They're in a relationship with Krishna. Hence, they're able to give that empowerment to us. As I said in the previous sloka, that through such, you know, plugged-in Krishna consciousness, through such electric devotion, they literally just have to give a little touch, and then boom, you're off and flying in Krishna consciousness, because that is the nature. You know, the soul just needs to be charged up a little bit, you know, and we can go for it in Krishna consciousness. That's what we need. That's what we want. Because that is literally speaking. It's like, you know, when you've been waiting for something so long, on getting it, it's just mind blowing. It's like, finally we've got it. This is great, you know, and it becomes so exciting, so electric, so blissful to reawaken Krishna consciousness. And this is one of the things that we say. There's no need for all the extra austerities. We don't need to go out our way. It's already prescribed. If we want to do some austerity, fast on Ekadashi, that is a bona fide thing. That is a powerful way to surrender your body, your mind. You know, you have because you decide not to eat, or if you give up certain things, or you cut down your eating for that day, for example. Excuse me. Then you can. We'll have more time for chanting and reading. What is more austere than that? You know, that is our austerity, to chant the holy name. That is our austerity, to bring the mind back. You know, withdraw the other senses. These are the things that the Mahatmas have done before us. We know about the 6 Goswamis, how they were just, you know, gradually, slowly but surely, they were pulling out of the bodily platform. You know, sleeping less and less, eating less and less, just simply for the desired result of just chanting and absorbing in Krishna. As described in the 2nd verse of this chapter, not only is this devotional service easy, but it can be performed in a happy mood. One does not need to undergo any severe penance and austerity. He can live this life in devotional service, guided by an expert spiritual master, and in any position, either as a householder or a sannyasi or a brahmachari, in any position and anywhere in the world. He can perform this devotional service to the Supreme Person of Godhead and thus become actually Mahatma, a great soul. So this verse is that verse that Prabhupada was referring to, 9.2. Again, another famous verse, not a 30 key verse, but one worth having a look into and reading the purport for that one. Raja Vijay Raja Guyam Pavitram Idam Uttamam Pratyak Shavagamam Dharmyam Susukam Kartum Avyayam. And that is the key point there. It is everlasting and it is joyfully performed. The translation in full. This knowledge is the king of education, the most secret of all secrets. It is the purest knowledge, and because it gives direct perception of the self by realization. It is the perfection of religion. It is everlasting and it is joyfully performed. And Prabhupada just mentions in the purport that this chapter of Bhagavad-Gita is called the King of Education, because it is the essence of all doctrines and philosophies explained before. So all the karma yoga, dhyana yoga, the surrendering the mind, all this thing is now completely perfected in this chapter through these teachings of the Lord. And it is joyfully done. Such devotional service like that is just performed without any mental block, without any difficulty. It's just a free-flowing relationship with Krishna. And it can be like that every day, wherever you go, anywhere in the world. You take that Krishna consciousness with you. Otherwise, if we're trying to shed off the material difficulties by jumping from one place to another, all we're doing is carrying them over to that other place. And it may seem for a few days by the externals of, by the kind of excitement you get of trying some new endeavour, you think, this has helped me conquer the mind. But then the mind will come in again. You know, the mind just needs that few days to. It might give you a break and make you feel that you're lulled into a sense of false security, but that mind will follow you around all over the place until you're able to conquer it. And that Mahatma, that steady, dearest Atharnamurti, that soul who's not affected by the changes. If you think back all the way, or you refresh yourself later by listening to that class again, if we go all the way back to the start of this 30 key verses, dearest Atharnamurti, a sober person is not bewildered by such a change, you know. This happiness and distress, you know. That's the Mahatma. That's the great soul. So it was already hinted even at the start of the Bhagavad-Gita where Arjuna needed to be at to get out of his distress in life. So this is the platform we're aiming for. We can find that, as Prabhupada says, either as a householder, as a sannyasi, or a brahmachari, in any position and anywhere in the world. Why? Because our ISKCON movement is all over the world. Because our ISKCON movement is the Mahatma program. Our ISKCON movement is the Sadhu program, you know. Prabhupada wanted us all to become trained up in this sadhu mentality, Mahatma mentality. Become a guru, become qualified, and spread Krishna consciousness over the world, make disciples, spread this movement with all you've got. That's this ISKCON. That is Srila Prabhupada's mission. That is on behalf of Lord Chaitanya. And that is our, certainly for the devotees, that is our task, and that is our right, that is our birthright, our, in many ways it's our vow, it's part of our vow that we've taken to fulfill that instruction, to continue to spread the Krishna consciousness movement all over the world. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaura Premanandi Haribo.